That doesn't sound like Durham at all.
I think that was probably the first time I think I was just very aware of my race
Mm,
in a way that I don't think I had been before. But,
mm.
my reaction to that was kind of retreating into myself socially, which, I became a hermit, to be frank. I found myself, my sister at the time went to Lowe's Grove. So she stayed at Lowe's Grove, went from 6 to 8. And I would find myself like going to the football games, like chilling with her friends and like connecting with folks over there. Needless to say, when I was done with Duke, when I finished middle school, I was very, very ready to go to a public setting where there was a diverse background, and felt like I would flourish there. So that
And
was my
was
experience.
okay. That's interesting because I know I first became like racy in elementary school. Like
Hmm. What does
I just
racy mean? What does racy mean to you?
like for me, man, like I'm gonna be honest. So I got put in anger management in elementary school.
Oh wow!
In retrospect, I
Like
did.
anger management, within the school.
Yeah, they had me in a couple programs. They had me in a joint called the Buddy Program. That was like where you had like a buddy, like a peer to like talk to you and stuff like that. But then I got put in a more formal program called Duke Coping Power. And in retrospect, they're collecting this data about me and paying me for participating in the form of like gift cards and stuff like that. I know that in retrospect as an adult. As a kid, I'm just like, showing up thinking I get free pizza, gonna talk to some other kids for a while, get asked a few questions. They're gonna follow me throughout. They actually met with me from like either third grade through high school. Like they really follow my whole trajectory through elementary, middle, and high school. And I got recommended for this program because I was acting out in elementary school. And I was acting out in large part. I think I just didn't have the tools to cope with the lack of father issues that I had. Like I had father issues, daddy issues.
Hmm.
They never really go away, frankly. But these issues turn themselves into acting out and really
Mm.
being like rebellious in a crowd, like down for whatever. And I remember telling teachers in elementary school, go tell that white boy to be quiet. Like, like, because I felt like I would get pointed out for, the class gets loud.
Hmm.
Everybody's being quiet, being social, but you need to be quiet. And I'm like, man, go tell that white boy to be quiet. And I remember saying stuff like this in elementary school, right?
Hmm.
And so I ended up getting suggested for this program to deal with my anger. That program, I look at that in retrospect, like that's when I became racy because I remember being in public school. I went to Forest View. I went to George Watts Kindergarten, Forest
Hmm.
View, 1st through 5th. And at Forest View, which is a completely different side of town than where you
Hmm.
were, Bethesda, right?
Hmm.
Forest View literally opened the first year I was in 1st grade. So it's a brand new school at that point. And I just felt I could feel that I was being treated different than other people around me.
Mm.
That was my personal
In
feeling.
elementary school.
Yeah, no question. No question. I personally felt it. That was
Hmm.
me. When
Was
I
there
got
a-
sick,
was
yeah,
there
go
like a
ahead.
lot of what was the rate? What was the percentage of black kids
It's a
at
nice
Forest View?
mix, like 50, Durham was like half and half, essentially. Like, you had Hispanic kids, Asian kids in the mix, but it was like
Hmm.
maybe 40%, 30%, and then the rest were Hispanic or Asian, for example.
Mm.
It was a nice mix. It really was a diverse mix all through K through. I felt like I could feel certain things in elementary school that made me feel like I was being singled out because of something that I don't know why I attribute it to race, but that's what I, at a young age attributed to. You felt it in middle school.
Well, wait. I'll say that my situation is different from yours because I was the only black. I was the only black kid. So
You're right.
I think that, and this is not to even go on my class, but like even if they treated me the same, right? I'm the only black kid. That's an experience right there. Like you the only one that's different.
Especially in Durham, yo. I can't imagine being
Yeah.
that's a different class. Like you talk about class, like that speaks to the classism of because when when you're in a public school in Durham, like I don't care what the public school is, it's gonna be people of color everywhere, all colors. Like it's just Durham's kind of in the mix like that. But once you start going in certain pockets, that's where you start to find that lack of diversity, especially over the last few years, kind of getting ahead. You mentioned Black August, sort of the inception of how it began. But before we get to that, you had that experience at Duke Private. What sort of was like the shell shock moment at Riverside where you was like, okay, this not private school no more?
I didn't, man. I was so happy to be at Riverside, to be honest, to be at a public school. It's interesting because so I go into Riverside, I'm in like, these honors classes or what have you. And I remember, like, I want to say after my sophomore year, my junior year, I opted to go into like the regular English class because in my honors and like these AP classes, it was the same thing. I felt the same way.
Yeah.
And I realized something about myself. Like I was just more comfortable and I could be myself in a way. I'd just be more comfortable when I was with my people. I said, you know what? No, I don't want to do AP English. I'd much rather do standard. And yeah, and like the way that I performed in that class from the previous class when I was in the honors class of just earlier was night and day because I felt more comfortable. And it's probably a me thing, but like I say that to say like I was ready, like I was very happy and willing, excited to go to Riverside when I was coming in. It wasn't a concern in the world. And you have to remember, and I also add, like when I was at Shepherd, Shepherd had just became a magnet school, right? So this was a Black school in the way that like it was probably 95, 96%.
No, Shepherd is Black.
Yeah. It was just a Black school, man. Like I came in, I left that and went to Duke. So I was shell shocked from Duke. When I went to Riverside, I was like, oh,
sense of relief.
Okay. Yeah. Like, so that's where I was coming from.
Okay. So at this time period, one of the things that, or I'll say, how I came to know of you in the Durham area originally had to do with your family's restaurant. I'm curious as to what year that restaurant first opened.
Yeah, so the restaurant first opened in 1988. So there's been
that same location on Broad Street or
no?
Okay,
no. So this is the story of the Palace International. My parents who are immigrants. At the time, like my dad graduates, he has his job. He's like one of the first people in the community to have a house. If you're the first person to have a house, essentially that means that becomes the spot. That's the meetup spot. That's the pregame spot. That's the chill spot. That's the party spot. Everybody and anybody who was in like his community came to his spot and it was always live. It came to the point where they were like, yo, we need to open up our own spot. Like we need to open up our own spot. And at the time, it's not just Kenyans. This is everybody. This is anyone and everyone who were immigrants essentially in the Durham area. And they're like, yo, let's open up our own spot. They opened up the Palace International. And the initial location was where the new Bull Stadium is now, the new one, where the third base is in that stadium. There was a building there.